Okay, this particular video will start talking about Chapter 1, and I just want to touch briefly on a couple of things, then really spend most time with the first segment working with entity relationship diagrams. So as we can see, the Chapter 1 is about it's a conceptual piece of this particular class. And most of it, probably 85% of this class is going to be skills-based, but you have to get a little bit of an idea about how databases are built and why they're built the way they are. Now, and we'll talk about this in class because the video is intended to be a supplement more than anything, but we'll talk about database systems and relational databases. In class we'll talk about database systems and that databases are made up of tables where you have records and you have fields and you have all this information that goes into a database. Just think about yourself in the within the student information system and all of your information within that. This is basically an unnormalized look at data, so everything's all in one big can, but what we end up doing is normalizing this data and separating it out into pieces: students and courses and grades and faculty and so on and so forth. Okay, we'll go on to there. Database systems, a DBMS is really a DBMS manages the physical storage and data retrieval. So within a database system, you have the can of information and then the database management program. What we're going to use is Oracle and SQL. We're going to use Oracle as that database management system, and we're going to use SQL, structured query language, to access it. And SQL will be written in these programs. As an example, if we had a payroll program, you would write that in SQL, and that would access your database. Again, we'll talk about this more in class. Now, we talked a little bit about personal database management systems. That's like access for lower end applications, a small business, personal applications. And then we talk about large databases like Oracle, like we're going to use. Of course, we're just using basically a light version, but Oracle, I think, has 85 or 80 or 75% of the market share when it comes to database applications. So they are really probably the biggest company in this particular market. Okay, now let's see, where are we at? Now this is the focus of this particular supplemental instructional video. We're talking about entities and relationships. So an entity, and this is just a picture of an Access database, so it gave us a better picture, so I grabbed it. An entity is an object about which you want to store data. Students or teachers or customers or orders or inventory items, those sorts of things. In this case we have authors, books, and genre. So I developed a small database in Access where I used authors, books, and genre. Those are actually entities. And then within the entities you'll have, you know, author IDs, last name, birth years, and so on and so on. Now the relationship is how do these pieces, these different tables, tie together. And in this case, the author ID is usually tied to, and that's a primary key. We have to talk about primary keys and foreign keys within this. And we really don't have to yet. We will a lot. We'll speak about primary keys and foreign keys a lot in Chapter 2. At this point, we just understand that these different tables are tied together between one field in one table, which is in this case the primary key. Notice the little key, and a foreign key in a second field, or in a second table. Sorry. So they're tied together in this way, and then genre as a primary key is tied to a foreign key within the books table itself, and then you have a primary key for books. BID is a primary key. Genre ID is the primary key in genre. So typically you'll see the ID, the primary key, as a table or a field that's listed as AID or author ID or BID. Okay, that's what you'll typically see. So again, the entity is an object about which you want to store data. Authors, books, teachers, students. Okay, relationships show how these different tables are connected, basically. Okay, in this case, and this is the entity relationship model, and it's kind of a hassle, but you have to learn how to, or you have to learn what your database looks like in order to be able to build it. So you need a visual of it before you can actually really build it. Our little databases that we're doing in class with 4 or 5 tables, probably not as important, but if you think about a database that may have 100 tables in it, 100 different entities, it becomes really important to be able to draw out, to visualize this information and to be able to then build it. So this ERD, Entity Relationship Diagram Model, designed to help you identify which entities need to be included in the database, and composed of squares represent entities, lines represent relationships. So the square is the entity, and of course you put whoever the entity is or whatever it is within that square. And then this little crow's foot represents a many relationship, and the little 0 represents at least a 0 relationship. Now, in this point over here, each student attends at least 1. So these two horizontal lines are saying at least 1 and at most 1. For what we're going to do in class, we'll just have a straight line. That'll be just fine, because we'll assume at least 1 and at most 1. Types of relationships: a one-to-one relationship, a one-to-many, and a many-to-many. And this is another example of what that might look like. So you have one model, and this is the inventory system. One model, one model can have many vehicles within that model. Okay, so the many, at least 0 and as many vehicles in that model. And then that vehicle, one vehicle, can have many parts. Okay, and then many parts can be used on one vehicle in this inventory case. And then one manufacturing location can have many vehicles and parts. Okay, now that's the way you might look at that. Probably a better example is saying this, and we know that this is actually different, but traditionally this has been the case. So ask yourself this: can one student go to one school? Okay, yes. Okay, so you know it's at least a one-to-one relationship. Can many students be in one school? Yes. Now that shows that there's a many-to-one relationship. Can one school have at least one student? Yes. Can many schools have, let's see, can one school, how would I want to say that? You would have can many schools have many students? Not in the older traditional structure that this picture came from. Traditionally, you would have many students in one school, and before really online learning, and that's what this model represents, the traditional structure, you could only have one school could have many students. You couldn't have many schools could not have many students. From that perspective of a student being enrolled in a school. I hope that's clear enough. Let's build something. You see, this can be kind of confusing, and it's just conceptual at this point in time. So, but those are the questions you want to ask yourself. Now let's go to this, and how you would expect, and maybe we can walk through this a little bit better, how you would expect to be able to go ahead and build this, and you have to do this within Chapter 1, is go through, you can use Word, and we want to build an entity relationship diagram. And we want to do so and put our tables and fields and things like that in that we might expect. So now I think one of the questions talks about customers, orders, and items. So how you might do this within Word is go ahead and insert a text box, and we'll just draw a text box. And we're going to call this, and I'm not picky at all about how you build this. You can even draw this out and then scan these particular assignments, and then enter and just attach them to your assignment submission within Moodle. So the question though asks or says you have a customer. Okay, that's fine, we do. You have orders. We'll go to text box again. Draw text box. We have orders. And I think also we have items. Draw text box. And ordinarily we would probably use a program like Visio or something that has all this functionality built into it. We don't really worry about this right here. So the first thing we want to ask, can one customer make one order? Yes. So in this case I'm just going to go quickly to here to a line and attach a line. I'm not too worried about how it looks. Now, can one customer place many orders? Yes. So in this case I need to go back out here, draw me a couple more lines, just make something quick and easy like this little crow's foot. There's quicker and easier, better ways to do this, but this will be just fine. Okay, so we now know that a customer can place one order, a customer can place many orders. Now and that looks pretty goofy, oh well. Now we're thinking about one order. Can one order have one customer or be placed by one customer? Yes. Can many orders be placed by one customer? Yes. Can one order have many customers? No. So so that represents our one-to-many relationship. Now when we look at orders and items, next thing is orders and items. So can one order, let's ask ourselves, can one order have one item? Yes. Can one order have many items? Yes. Okay, so that's going to say one to many, and I'm just going to copy some of these. Okay, and we know that one order can have many items, and I'm just pressing Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Okay, close enough there. Now the question is this: can one item be on one order? Yes. So our many-to-one or a one-to-one relationship. Can many items be on many orders? Yes. So we end up now with a many-to-many relationship. So I just press Control V to paste, and I'm just going to use the same line to quickly draw. Okay, so we end up with one to many, okay, and then a many to many. Well, you cannot have a many to many relationship. When you do, and you start doing queries and searches, you're going to end up with all kinds of problems within your queries. Primarily Cartesian products, where you have one order placed with all of your items, or listed with all of your items, the second order listed with all of your items. So it becomes a problem. Now the question is going to ask you, the problem is going to ask you in the text, well, which tables do you have, and what do those fields look like? So we want to insert, at least at this point in time, a table would be the easiest thing to do, and we're using 4, and I'll tell you why. Customer is our first field, or our first table, and we're probably going to have a CID. Remember, you always have to have an ID, and that's going to be called a primary key. And we're probably going to go like this. Primary key will be just fine. And we'll have C last, C first, and you'll probably want to enter some other stuff into that. Orders is our next table. So with orders, we're probably going to have an O_ID, ID, and that's probably going to be a primary key. And then we're probably going to have like O_date for the order date. We're probably going to have O_payment for the type of payment that you're going to get, but also who made the order. You have to add CID, and that's going to be a foreign key, and that's going to tie to here when you end up building this database. Okay. Now we also have items, so we know this. And so we'll have I_ID, and that's probably going to be a primary key. And then probably with items, we'll probably have description. We'll probably have price. That's good for right. We'll probably have quantity on hand, probably. Now, I had mentioned, so we have one table, two tables, three tables. customer orders and items. Now we have to have an associative entity between a many-to-many relationship where it goes one to many and a many to one. So we have to solve this problem by going here and inserting another text box. We'll draw this out. We'll just go right to here, and we're going to call this order line. And then in this case here we have to go, I'm going to copy and paste. We have to solve this problem by going from here to here. And I'm going to change the line color on that to show that that's red. I'm going to copy that and paste that, and then this ends up being one to many, many to one. I'm not sure if I said that correctly or not, but you can see what I'm doing here. And it's just quick and easy. And if I wanted to spend more time, I could make it a little cleaner, but I don't want to spend any more time with this. Okay, roughly. There we go. Okay, so what we're seeing now is that in order to solve this many-to-many relationship that I can't have, I have to put in an associative entity in here, and then actually go one to many and many to one. So this will end up looking like order line, and then we have to have an OID that ties orders to order line together. We have to have ID, and that will tie items to order line together. And often here within this, and you can think of this as an itemized list, basically an itemized invoice. And here we'll probably have quantity purchased. Okay, so that's kind of what those questions in Chapter 1 will look like. That's how you can go ahead and solve this. That's how you can go ahead and develop or put together the assignment. So hopefully that's going to be helpful. I don't want this video to go too long, but hopefully that'll give you everything that you need to be able to successfully complete or at least get you started for that assignment. So thank you very much.